They say dogs are man's best friend. But what happens when your own family treats your best friend like garbage? I'm Silas, and I learned the answer to that question when my daughter abandoned my service dog Baron at a kill shelter because it was inconvenient for her travel plans. Baron had been my lifeline after my heart attack. This wasn't just pet abandonment. This was betrayal of the deepest kind. My daughter Amelia had just returned from a business trip to London, cheerfully unpacking while telling me about her vacation. "Dad, I hope you don't mind, but I had to handle the Baron situation before my flight. You know how expensive those pet hotels are, so I just took him to the pound." Baron wasn't just any dog. He was a $50,000 certified service animal who had been my constant companion for years. "Which pound, Amelia?" "Oh, some municipal place outside the city." My blood ran cold. I knew exactly which pound. The high kill shelter that euthanizes animals within 72 hours. "When did you drop him off?" 3 days ago. You're watching Betrayal HQ, where family betrayal meets the ultimate justice. If you're new here, we share the real stories of people who turned their deepest hurt into perfect revenge, straight from those who lived it. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell, because what Silas did next will leave you speechless. So I decided to show my daughter exactly what loyalty is worth in cold, hard cash. $2 billion worth, to be exact. All of it going to the dog she threw away like trash. But the real revenge was just getting started. I didn't just save Baron from that death sentence. I created the most elaborate legal trap you've ever heard of, designed to teach my daughter the true meaning of loyalty, consequences, and family. What happened next will restore your faith that karma exists and justice can be served with mathematical precision. This is my story. The empty leash, sitting on my kitchen counter, told the whole story. I stared at it while my daughter Amelia cheerfully unpacked her suitcase from her business trip to London. "Dad, I hope you don't mind, but I had to handle the Baron situation before my flight. You know how expensive those pet hotels are. And with you being in the hospital, I thought it was best to just take him to the pound." The words hit me like ice water. Baron wasn't just any dog. He was a $50,000 certified service animal who had been my constant companion since my heart attack 2 years ago. "Which pound, Amelia?" "Oh, some municipal place outside the city. They said they'd take good care of him until you were ready." I knew exactly which pound she meant. The high kill shelter that euthanized animals within 72 hours if no one claimed them. "When did you drop him off?" 3 days ago. "Dad, are you okay? You look pale." 3 days. Baron had maybe hours left before they put him down. All because my daughter couldn't be bothered to arrange proper care while I was recovering from surgery. I kept my voice steady. "I'm fine, dear. Just tired." But I wasn't fine. I was furious. I immediately called my personal assistant, Miss Wu, the moment Amelia left for her apartment. "Miss Wu, I need you to go to the municipal pound outside the city immediately. Baron was dropped off 3 days ago. Get him out now, whatever it costs." "Of course, Mr. Sterling. I'll leave right away." While she drove to save my dog, I called my lawyer. "Mr. Finch, I need you at my house in 1 hour. Bring the estate documents we discussed last month." "Silas, is everything all right?" "Everything is about to be perfect. Just bring the papers." By the time Miss Wu called to confirm Baron was safe and on his way home, I had made a decision that would change everything. The documents Mr. Finch brought weren't simple will amendments. They were detailed papers establishing a perpetual pet trust, making Baron the primary beneficiary of my entire estate. "Silas, are you certain about this? Your net worth is approaching $2 billion. "I'm certain. Baron nearly died because of my daughter's selfishness. Now he'll live better than royalty." I signed every page without hesitation. "What about Amelia?" "Leave her $10,000. That should cover the cost of a nice funeral for the relationship she just killed." Amelia received the formal legal notification 2 days later. Mr. Perclay, Finch called me after delivering the news. She was surprised, Silas. She assumed it was symbolic and easily reversible. What did you tell her? I informed her that you had established the Baron Sterling Pet Trust and that she would receive $10,000 while the remainder of the estate would be managed for Baron's benefit in perpetuity. And her reaction? She laughed. She said you were just being dramatic and that no court would uphold such an arrangement. That evening, Amelia called me directly. Dad, this is ridiculous. You can't leave billions of dollars to a dog. I can, and I did. But it's not legal. No judge will. Amelia. Mr. Finch was general counsel for Morrison International Holdings for 15 years. He knows exactly what's legal and what isn't. The silence on the phone told me she was finally understanding that this wasn't a tantrum. This was permanent. Dad, can we talk about this? I made a mistake with Baron. But yes, you did. And mistakes have consequences. Amelia scheduled an emergency meeting the next morning. She arrived with flowers, tears, and what she thought was a compelling apology. Dad, I'm sorry about Baron. I was stressed about the flight, and I made a terrible decision. But surely we can fix this. I listened patiently, then called for Owen to join us. Owen was a college acquaintance of Amelia's, someone she'd always considered lazy and unreliable. She looked confused as he entered my living room in an expensive suit. Amelia, meet the newly appointed trustee of the Baron Sterling Pet Trust. Her face went white. Owen? You made Owen the trustee of billions of dollars? Owen smiled. Hello, Amelia. It's good to see you again. Dad, Owen barely graduated college. He's completely irresponsible. Owen is responsible enough to ensure Baron receives the best care money can buy. He also has the authority to hire all staff related to Baron's needs. I watched Amelia realize that her old classmate now controlled more money than most small countries, and she would have to defer to him for any decisions regarding the trust. This is insane, she whispered. This is justice, I replied. Owen immediately established Baron's new lifestyle requirements. Within a week, he'd hired a full-time handler, a gourmet chef specializing in canine nutrition, and architects to design a state-of-the-art living facility. The monthly expenses were staggering, over $200,000 just for basic care. But the real shock came when Amelia discovered how Owen was funding these expenses. She stormed into my house, holding financial documents. Dad, you liquidated grandfather's coin collection? That was supposed to be mine. You promised it to me. The antique coin collection her grandfather had left me was worth nearly $10 million. I'd been holding it specifically for Amelia since she'd always loved those coins as a child. I needed immediate liquid assets to fund Baron's care. The coins were the most available option. But you promised them to me. I also trusted you to care for Baron while I was in the hospital. We both broke promises, Amelia. She was crying now, holding the papers that showed every coin sold to fund what she saw as an elaborate doghouse. You're destroying my inheritance to spite me. I'm ensuring Baron gets the care you denied him. Amelia and her fiancé Victor decided to challenge my mental competency. They hired a lawyer and demanded a psychological evaluation. I welcomed the challenge. The competency review took place in Mr. Finch's office. 3 psychiatrists examined me for hours, testing my memory, reasoning, and decision-making abilities. I passed every test perfectly. But during the legal discovery process, Amelia's lawyer uncovered something that shocked everyone. Mr. Sterling, it appears that Baron's Trust now controls the voting shares for the land beneath Ascend Global's downtown headquarters. Ascend Global was the company where Amelia worked as a senior executive. That's correct. I owned a silent commercial mortgage on that property. When I established the trust, all my assets were transferred to Baron's benefit. Amelia looked like she was going to faint. Dad, you're saying that my dog now owns the building where I work? Technically, Owen manages those voting rights on Baron's behalf. But yes, Victor leaned over to whisper frantically to Amelia. I could see them, both realizing that challenging the trust might result in Baron's trustee evicting Amelia's entire company. Asterisk, asterisk, Victor tried asterisk, asterisk, to solve the problem with money. He approached Owen privately, offering him a substantial bribe to mismanage the trust. Think about it, Owen. You could take a few million for yourself and free up the rest for Amelia. No one would ever know. Owen was smarter than Victor realized. He recorded the entire conversation. Within hours, Owen filed a temporary restraining order against both Victor and Amelia, citing attempted interference with his fiduciary duty to Barron. The TRO banned them from coming within 500 feet of Barron or any trust property. Amelia called me, sobbing, "Dad, I can't even go to work. The building is trust property, and Owen won't lift the restraining order. Perhaps you should have thought of that before your fiancé tried to bribe the trustee. I didn't know Victor was going to." Amelia, you've surrounded yourself with people who solve problems with dishonesty. That's not my fault. The restraining order would remain in place until Victor faced criminal charges for attempted bribery of a fiduciary. The cryptic text message I sent Amelia contained only 3 words: read the mandate. She spent the next day studying the 100-page pet trust document, looking for loopholes. What she found was worse than she'd imagined. The trust mandate required Barron to travel annually to specific research centers around the world for continued excellence in his specialized training. These weren't ordinary trips. They were elaborate expeditions to remote scientific facilities, each costing millions of dollars and requiring custom transportation, security, and specialized handlers. The trust was designed to legally drain millions every year on these required expenses. Amelia called me after reading the full mandate. "Dad, this will cost hundreds of millions over Barron's lifetime. There won't be anything." "That's the point, Amelia. You threw away something precious. So I'm making sure you can never profit from that decision." "But this is crazy. Why does Barron need to visit research centers?" I smiled, even though she couldn't see me. "Because Barron is more than just a dog, Amelia. He's a specialized service animal with capabilities you never bothered to understand." The restraining order triggered an ethics audit at Ascend Global. The company couldn't have a senior executive banned from their own building by the property's controlling interest. Amelia found herself under investigation for her personal conflicts affecting the business. During the audit, investigators uncovered a minor compliance oversight from 2 years ago, something that should have been easily handled with proper support. Instead, Victor immediately threw Amelia under the bus. "I warned her about those reporting requirements," he told the ethics board. But she insisted her way was better. Amelia realized that her fiancé was more concerned with protecting his own career than supporting her through the crisis. "Victor, you said you'd handle this together." "I can't risk my position because of your family drama, Amelia." Watching her relationship crumble along with her career was almost too much justice. Almost. But I wasn't finished yet. The audit would drag on for months, keeping Amelia in professional limbo while Barron lived like a king. Asterisk, asterisk. Desperate to asterisk, asterisk. Discredit the trust. Amelia investigated Barron's full-time handler. She expected to find someone Owen had hired carelessly. Instead, she discovered that Marcus was a retired military canine specialist with an impeccable reputation. But the real surprise came when she looked into his payment structure. Marcus wasn't being paid by Owen or the trust. He was being paid directly by an offshore foundation I controlled separately. This meant Marcus was loyal only to me, not to the trust's governance structure. When Amelia confronted Owen about this, he shrugged. "Silas established that arrangement before I became trustee. Marcus answers to him, not to me." "But that means Dad is still controlling everything. Silas controls Barron's specialized training. I control the trust's finances. It's a brilliant system of checks and balances." Amelia was learning that I'd built a legal structure with multiple layers of protection. Even if she found a way to remove Owen, she couldn't touch Marcus or the specialized care he provided. Barron was safer than most heads of state. Owen delivered the next blow with corporate precision. Acting on my instructions, he demanded a massive retroactive licensing fee from Ascend Global. The fee was based on a patent I'd filed 40 years ago for commercial land use efficiency modeling, a technical innovation that had shaped modern urban development. Ascend Global's building utilized my patented systems, making the licensing demand completely legitimate. The fee was $200 million. Amelia's company faced a choice: pay the enormous fee or relocate their headquarters. Dad, this is destroying my career. The board is blaming me for the legal complications. Then perhaps you should have considered the consequences before abandoning Baron. This isn't fair. I made one mistake. Amelia, you left a living, breathing companion to die alone because it was convenient. That wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. The licensing fee would bankrupt Ascend Global unless they found a way to settle. Meanwhile, Baron enjoyed gourmet meals and custom-designed living quarters. Owen surprised everyone by announcing his resignation as trustee, effective in exactly 1 year. But the bigger surprise was the $10 million severance package I'd established for him. You see, Amelia, Owen explained during his final meeting with her, your father hired me to implement the trust structure for 1 year. I've been compensated accordingly. You're telling me Dad paid you $10 million just to set this up? Your father is a very thorough man. He wanted to ensure the trust was properly established and legally unbreakable. Owen's severance proved that I'd planned every detail of this revenge. He'd been competent enough to execute my strategy perfectly. So who becomes trustee now? Owen smiled. That's determined by the trust documents. But I suspect your father has already chosen someone even more qualified than me. Amelia was learning that removing Owen wouldn't solve her problems. It would just introduce new complications she couldn't predict. The trust was designed to function independently, with or without any specific trustee. Victor panicked about the licensing fee, affecting Ascend Global's bottom line. Without telling Amelia, he approached Miss Wu with a desperate buyout offer. I'll pay $500 million for the entire pet trust, he told her. Cash, immediately. Miss Wu accepted the offer on behalf of the trust. Victor celebrated, thinking he'd solved all their problems by buying out Baron's inheritance. But the purchase agreement contained fine print that Victor hadn't read carefully. If Baron's continued excellence was compromised in any way, the trust would automatically revert to my control, and the purchase would be voided. Victor had just paid $500 million for temporary ownership of a trust with an impossible performance standard. Victor, what did you do? Amelia asked when she learned about the purchase. I fixed everything. I bought out the trust. Did you read the contract? Of course I did. But Victor's celebration would be short-lived. The trust's travel mandate was about to trigger the reversion clause. Baron's required trip to a research center in Iceland was scheduled for the following week. The travel logistics were incredibly complex, requiring specialized transportation and handlers. Victor, now technically responsible for Baron's care, had no idea how to arrange such a trip. When he failed to meet the travel requirements within 48 hours, the compromised excellence clause activated automatically. The pet trust reverted to my control, and Victor's $500 million purchase was voided. Mr. Sterling, the bank called to inform me, Victor's payment has been returned to his account per the contract terms. Victor was humiliated, having publicly announced his successful purchase only to lose everything within a week. Dad, how could you do this to Victor? Amelia demanded. I didn't do anything to Victor. He failed to read the contract terms and couldn't meet his obligations. The requirements were impossible. They weren't impossible for me. I've been managing Baron's specialized care for years. Victor learned the hard way that buying something doesn't mean you can actually handle it. Marcus, Baron's handler, sent Amelia a cryptic. Ask him about the tracking chip. When she confronted me about this, I decided it was time for her to understand Baron's true value. Amelia, Baron isn't just a service animal. He carries a custom geological scanner designed to track subterranean mineral deposits. What? Those research centers he visits? They're the only facilities capable of downloading and analyzing his data. Baron has been mapping mineral resources across 3 continents. Her mouth fell open. You're saying Baron is some kind of spy dog? I'm saying Baron is the key to a passive resource exploration network worth billions of dollars. The travel mandate wasn't arbitrary expense. It was essential data collection that funded the entire trust through mineral rights discoveries. The geological data Baron collects pays for his own care and generates massive profits. He's not just inheriting money, Amelia. He's earning it. She finally understood that the pet trust wasn't just revenge. It was a sophisticated business operation. Ascend Global filed a lawsuit claiming the pet trust was fraudulent asset protection. Mr. Finch responded with a defense that shocked their corporate lawyers. He produced documentation showing that the trust operated under an obscure tax treaty with a tiny nation I'd helped incorporate decades ago. This gave the Baron Sterling Pet Trust sovereign legal immunity from U.S. tax law. Your Honor, Mr. Finch argued, this trust operates under international treaty provisions that predate any domestic regulations. Ascend Global's lawyers had never seen anything like it. Mr. Sterling, how did you even know about this treaty? Amelia asked. I helped write it 30 years ago when I was consulting on international business law. I always planned for the future, Amelia. The lawsuit was dismissed immediately. No domestic court had jurisdiction over the trust. Amelia was learning that I hadn't just created elaborate revenge. I'd built an untouchable legal fortress. Baron's inheritance was protected by international law. The truth about Baron's abandonment came out when I showed Amelia recorded conversations between Victor and her boss. Victor convinced you to abandon Baron by creating an impossible deadline, I explained. He manipulated you into making that choice. The recording showed Victor pressuring Amelia to choose between her dog and her career, knowing she'd sacrifice Baron to protect her job. He set you up, Amelia. The deadline was fake. He wanted you to abandon Baron. But why? Because he knew I'd react dramatically. He was counting on me doing something that would damage your inheritance. Amelia listened to Victor's recorded voice, plotting to use the pet trust situation to steal her work on the mineral exploration project. Victor planned this whole thing. Victor saw an opportunity to manipulate both of us. He succeeded with you, but he underestimated me. She was finally understanding that she'd been a pawn in Victor's larger scheme. The recordings revealed something even worse. Amelia's boss, the CEO of Ascend Global, had been part of Victor's conspiracy. Listen to this part, I told her, playing the most damaging conversation. If we can get Silas to overreact about the dog, we can use the legal chaos to force Amelia out and seize control of the mineral exploration IP. The CEO had planted the idea of abandoning Baron, knowing it would trigger my revenge and create the crisis they needed. They used me, Amelia whispered. They used both of us, but I was prepared for their manipulation. You weren't. The conspiracy went deeper than family betrayal. It was corporate espionage disguised as personal drama. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have seen what they were doing. You should have trusted me more than you trusted them. But we can fix this now. The recordings would destroy both Victor and the CEO while clearing Amelia's name completely. Finch executed a pre-arranged stock purchase that I'd been planning for years. Amelia, I need to tell you something about Ascend Global. I've been buying shares secretly for 3 years. As of today, I control 51% of the company. You own my company? I own the company that tried to steal from both of us. And now I control the board of directors. The CEO who'd conspired with Victor was about to face a very unfriendly takeover. Effective immediately, the board will be investigating all senior management for conspiracy and corporate espionage. Amelia watched as the people who'd betrayed her suddenly found themselves unemployed and facing criminal charges. Dad, how long have you been planning this? Since the day you started working there. I always suspected they'd eventually try to exploit our family relationship for corporate gain. The pet trust had been just one part of a much larger strategy to protect both our family and our business interests. Victor made one last desperate attempt to save himself. He came to my house, begging for forgiveness. Mr. Sterling, I was just trying to protect the family name. I never meant for things to go this far. I handed him a check for exactly $10,000, the same token amount I'd left Amelia in the original trust. This is your inheritance, Victor. Sir, I don't understand. On the back of that check, you'll find a legal condition. Cashing it forfeits all future inheritance rights from any member of my family. Victor stared at the check, realizing he had to choose between $10,000 now and the possibility of future money from marrying Amelia. You're forcing me to choose between money and love? I'm forcing you to choose between a guaranteed payout and a relationship you've already destroyed through your betrayal. He cashed the check that afternoon, proving that money meant more to him than Amelia ever had. The corporate cleanup was swift and thorough. The new board sold off all non-core Ascend Global assets and fired everyone involved in the conspiracy. But the most satisfying moment came when I legally dissolved the Baron Sterling Pet Trust. The trust served its purpose, I told Owen. Baron's mission is complete. Baron received a simple, comfortable living trust that would care for him without the elaborate expenses. Amelia, the entire trust structure was about the legal mechanism, not the money. I wanted to show you how easily wealth could be manipulated and lost. So this was all a lesson? This was justice for Baron and education for you. The money was never the point. She finally understood that the elaborate revenge had been designed to teach her about loyalty, consequences, and the true value of trust. Baron was happy with his normal dog life, and Amelia had learned lessons worth more than billions. The real inheritance came when I transferred ownership of all the geological patents and IP rights to Amelia. This is what Victor and your boss were really trying to steal, I explained. The mineral exploration network Baron helped create. The patents were worth billions and generated massive royalties from resource companies worldwide. Dad, this is incredible. But why didn't you just give me this from the beginning? Because you needed to understand what loyalty meant before you could handle this responsibility. The technology Baron had helped develop would provide sustainable income for generations. The pet trust was never about punishing you permanently. It was about ensuring you learn to value the right things before inheriting something this powerful. Amelia now controlled technological assets that could reshape entire industries. But more importantly, she understood the responsibility that came with such power. The Ascend Global Board filed criminal charges against Victor and the former CEO under the Baron Sterling Intellectual Property Foundation. The lawsuits were filed in the name of the dog they'd tried to exploit. The poetic justice is perfect, Mr. Finch noted. They're being financially ruined by the very animal they used as a pawn in their conspiracy. Both men faced fraud charges, breach of fiduciary duty, and conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. Dad, how does it feel watching them destroyed? It feels like justice, Amelia. They tried to use family love as a weapon against us. Now they're facing the consequences. The legal proceedings would take years and cost them everything they'd tried to steal. Meanwhile, Baron enjoyed retirement in comfort, completely unaware that he'd become the instrument of perfect revenge. I formally handed over leadership of the IP Foundation to Amelia at a small ceremony in my living room. You've proven that you understand the difference between earning respect and demanding inheritance, I told her. Dad, I'm sorry it took me so long to learn. The most important lessons usually do. She now controlled billions in technological assets. But more importantly, she understood the responsibility they represented. That original $10,000 I left you in the trust? It wasn't for my estate. It was the seed capital I used to start the mineral exploration venture 20 years ago. What do you mean? I was always transferring ownership back to you, Amelia. You just needed to prove you deserved it. She realized that even the punishment had been carefully designed to prepare her for eventual success. The pet trust had been elaborate theater to teach her about loyalty, consequences, and family values. Baron was sleeping peacefully by the fireplace when Amelia arrived for our weekly dinner. She looked genuinely happy for the first time in months. How's the IP Foundation treating you? I asked. It's challenging, but rewarding. I'm learning that managing wealth responsibly is much harder than I thought. She knelt down and gently stroked Baron's head. Thank you, Dad. You taught me that the biggest difference between success and failure isn't knowing the value of money, but understanding the value of loyalty. I smiled. watching my daughter finally understand what I'd been trying to teach her. A dog knows that better than any lawyer, I replied. Baron opened one eye, looked at both of us, then settled back into his nap, completely content. The empty leash was gone. In its place, we had rebuilt trust, respect, and understanding. Sometimes the best inheritance isn't money, it's wisdom. And sometimes the best teachers have 4 legs and unconditional love. The pet trust had served its purpose. My daughter was ready to carry on the family legacy with honor. And Baron? He was just happy to be home. If Silas's dog inheritance revenge satisfied you, tomorrow's story will shock you even more. Meet the grandfather whose grandson deleted his 20-year train simulation file. So he hit delete on the kid's savings account for his first car. Tomorrow's story. My grandson deleted my 20-year train simulation file. So I hit delete on his savings account dedicated to his first car. What happened next proves that sometimes the punishment should fit the digital crime perfectly. Subscribe and hit that bell, because tomorrow's generational revenge will leave you stunned. See you at Betrayal HQ.